What's going on, y'all? Today I'm excited to bring you guys my full review on the Brooks Ghost amps. So let's get right into the review. So actually, right before we get into the review, I do want to note that I did purchase these shoes all by myself. No brand sent them to me. I'm not getting paid to say anything. So this is going to be a completely non-biased review as I did purchase the shoe myself. So as always, we are going to start off with the traction of the shoe and how it held up in different weather conditions, different surfaces, as well as how it held up durability wise in my short time testing them. I do have 25 miles in this pair of running shoes. And as you can see, the gum bottoms on this outsole look pretty standard. It has good coverage in the high wear areas, which is the lateral medial side of the heel, and then good coverage in the forefoot, which is where I usually see the most wear in most of my running shoes. So as I said, I have 25 miles on the shoe. Traction for the most part, I live in San Francisco, California, so not too crazy of weather conditions, and I mostly run on the roads. I actually did take these on a little bit of a trail run on one of my longer runs, and overall I felt like the traction was really good on asphalt, but I did notice that when the ground was wet, I actually almost fell in these shoes because I wasn't really anticipating the traction to be like that bad. But so yeah, if you live in kind of like wet weather conditions and you run on the road a lot, I don't think that this outsole is going to be the best for you. To the touch, this outsole is kind of deceiving because it is really sticky, and when the ground is dry, it is really grippy. On the trails, like obviously this is made for road running, but on the trails it was actually okay, maybe not the best running shoe as well for the outsole, but I just do want to note that, I mean, the short time that I ran in kind of like a street cleaning, I guess, I almost fell in these shoes, and I was kind of surprised because just from like the eye test and the touch test, there are a lot of other outsoles that I would feel I would slip in those conditions, and this was not really one of them, or one that I thought I would slip in. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is my personal experience, but if you run in mostly dry weather conditions on the road, you should be good to go. As for durability, another part that I was kind of interested in just after the first run was that since this outsole is a little bit softer, I did know that there was already a little bit of fraying on the outsole. And after 25 miles, there is still some fraying, but I would say that this is a thicker layer of an outsole rubber. So I still do think that these are going to last a decent amount of time, and I don't see too much degradation. Like, it's, if anything, it's just in the intricate lines that they are kind of fraying, but it's not really affecting the durability, if that makes sense. So overall, I would still kind of think that these would last maybe an average amount of miles, like maybe 250 to 300 miles if I were to guess. Again, it's really hard for me to say because I only have 25 miles on the shoe, but overall, maybe the durability and the traction isn't the best on the Brooks Ghost amp. And moving on to the cushion setup of the Ghost amps, we have a full-length DNA Hype midsole. I don't exactly know if it's PEBA, nitrogen. It says on the shoe nitrogen injected, but it does feel a little bit bouncier. And again, the reason I don't get too much into the specs is just because I feel lied to. Like, I feel like the sneaker industry, like the running shoe industries in particular, because that's the one I'm most familiar with, I see all the specs of a lot of these running shoes, and when I put them on my feet, like, I just feel like I'm getting something different. And I don't exactly know if all the running shoe companies are standardizing like all their foams, because New Balance, I'm not no shade at New Balance or anything, but I feel like a lot of the times, like as an example, New Balance will say like Fuel Cell, or they'll say Fresh Foam X, and every iteration or every different model that has technically the same cushion setup feels a little bit different. So that's why I don't really care too much about, I guess, like what the foam actually is called in the shoe. But in this shoe, it's DNA Hype. The stack height is 36 millimeters in the heel, dropping to 30 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot, giving it a 6 millimeter heel to toe drop, which is interesting because traditionally in the Brooks Ghost line, I believe they now make it 10 millimeter heel to toe drop, but for the longest time, the Brooks Ghost line was a 12 millimeter heel to toe drop. So it is interesting that they're going for a lower drop here. And honestly, I mean, I didn't really feel the difference too much. Like, I think like my sweet spot for a heel to toe drop is around 8 to 10 millimeters for me personally. That's what I find most comfortable and works well with my body. But this setup was actually really, really nice. This foam is a lot more energetic, I would say, than the regular Brooks Ghost line. I didn't try the Ghost 18 just because it didn't really excite me this year, but I did try the Ghost 17, the Ghost 16, and the Ghost 15. Usually a very solid setup, maybe a little bit more on the firm side, and really stable, really reliable, comfortable to walk in or run in. With this setup, you are getting a little bit of amp which basically just means it's a little bit more exciting. I think that's why they named it the Ghost Amp. And it is a little bit more exciting, I would say. You still get a decent amount of ground feel because you don't have like the highest stack height in the world, but there is really good impact protection. This setup is very, very comfortable. It's maybe a little bit on the softer side. Again, I didn't try the Ghost 18 this year, so I can't really say, you know, like if it's softer than the Ghost 18 or whatnot, but it does, for me personally, feel pretty soft. Like the heel is very, very comfortable. The forefoot is soft, but it still like has a little bit of bounce in it too. And I would say that when I compress the foam and I'm running a little bit faster in this setup, I do get a good amount of ground feel because I'm compressing the foam all the way. And I do actually feel the outsole pods when I am running a little bit faster in this shoe, but I wouldn't say it's too much of a problem. The only time I would say that is if I were to run a long run faster. I don't think that I would choose this shoe just because it doesn't feel like it has enough impact protection for me personally. When I define long run, I did run a half marathon in these and it was totally fine, but I'm thinking, you know, 15, 16 miles plus, as well as if I'm personally pushing my own pace, like for me, that's around, you know, 8 minutes to 9 minutes per mile. I feel like that would be a little bit challenging in this shoe, and I feel like I would want a little bit more stack height just because I feel like the forefoot is lacking a little bit in that department. But this is a non-plated daily trainer, so it's not really meant to be kind of like that super trainer category where you might be training for a marathon and you get a non-plated shoe. This one, I mean, it probably could do it. I mean, if I was more fit, as also if I lost a little bit of weight, I probably could do it in this shoe, but it just wouldn't be my first option. So overall, the cushion setup was very, very comfortable. Long story short, and I would say that this is best used for what it's intended for, like daily training. You can pick up the pace. You maybe can do a couple of workouts in them if you don't want to wear a plated shoe, or if you want to feel the ground a little bit more, you want to put in a little bit more effort into your workout. I think that this is a great shoe. This is also a very comfortable shoe to walk around. I think that it's a little bit on the softer side, which is nice. The one thing I will say is that it is a neutral shoe. I don't think that the stability is maybe the best if you heavily overpronate or you heavily supinate. Again, this is not a stability shoe. Brooks makes a lot of great stability shoes, so you might want to look elsewhere. But if you're a neutral runner, you kind of like pronate naturally or maybe slightly overpronate or slightly supinate, you should be good to go in this shoe because it does have a decently stable base as well. And the cushion setup is just really, really kind of like light and fun. I would say it is a little bit softer than a lot of other setups nowadays, and it still gives you a slight bounce, which I personally really, really like. So overall, I did like the cushion setup. Again, if I were to knock it, I mean, I'm comparing it in my head to like way more expensive shoes and higher stack shoes. But I think for, I guess, pound for pound, like the amount of stack that you have, I think that this setup is really, really solid. And last but not least, we are gonna talk about the upper and the fit of this shoe. Honestly, Brooks does a great job with the lasts and the consistent sizing of their shoes. Like I wore a size 12 in these. I have a slightly wider than average foot. It started off a little bit narrow in the forefoot, I'm not even gonna lie, but I do have a slightly wider than average foot, so that's nothing to, I guess, write home about. But as I wore the shoe more and more, the upper started to break in quite a bit and it started to fit my foot a little bit better. I would say go with your normal Brooks size, whatever you usually wear, and you should be good to go. If you do have a wider foot like myself, you might want to look into a wide option, but overall, I felt like after I broke in the shoe, like I didn't have any problems with the width of the shoe or the fit of the shoe. The lacing setup locks your midfoot really well and the heel really, really well as well after you do the runner's loop. The only, I guess, like minor complaint I would have about this upper is that I feel like since it's called the Brooks Ghost Amp and the Brooks Ghost line is like, I guess, the same price or around the same price and kind of like is the same setup. I wish that they would actually like kind of revamp the upper a little bit and maybe put a little bit more effort into it, or either make the upper a little bit lighter or thinner, as well as just the materials maybe a little bit more premium. I know, I mean, I guess this and the Ghost 18s are the same price point, but maybe if they bump this up to like 155 or like 160, I know I don't want the shoes to get more expensive, or maybe they bump the Ghost 18s down to like 145 or 140 and then keep these at 150. Actually, I like that more. Then I feel like I would like this upper and just the overall shoe experience a little bit more, because don't get me wrong, the fit and the support are really good with this upper. I have no really complaints about the upper, but just when it comes to comfort and speed, I guess, like I would want want the upper to feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more ventilation as well, because I don't think that these shoes have great ventilation. I tried wearing different socks and I tried running, in windier conditions, and I still felt like my foot wasn't getting the best airflow. So a good example of what a brand did was like the Puma Deviate Nitro Pures, or the Puma Deviate Pure Nitros. Oh my gosh, the name though of that shoe I don't like. But that upper, I thought they did a really good job at keeping the upper thin as well as very breathable and very lightweight. So I feel like with the Ghost Amp, since they're trying to like market this shoe as a faster running shoe and a more fun and springy version of the Ghost, I feel like it would only make sense that the upper would be a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit tighter fitting, and then also just like there would be more perforations and ventilation so that they could cut the weight of the shoe even more and make it more exciting. That's just maybe my personal point of view. But overall, I have no complaints about the upper. It's very comfortable. It's kind of like a standard Brooks mesh upper, just a little bit on the thicker side. No problems with the fit or support or anything like that. So overall, the upper and the fit were solid, but again, nothing to write home about. So overall, the Brooks Ghost Amps priced at $150, I thought were a very, very solid daily trainer, non-plated daily trainer, regular stack height, nothing too crazy. I will say that it's probably the best Ghost that I've personally ever ran in from Brooks, which I don't know if it's saying too much, but when I compare it or I think about all the other $150 or $145 daily trainers that are non-plated on the market right now, like I'm looking at my shoe wall right now, Saucony Ride 19s, the Deviate Pure Nitro Pros, or not Deviate Pure Nitro, just the Deviate Pure Nitros, the New Balance Ellipses, the Nova Blast 6s, the Adidas Evo SLs, I don't really count those as one of my favorites, but just looking at all of those shoes, it is starting to get pretty saturated, I guess. Like this new line of like $5 more of pricing for a little bit more fun, I guess. And I just think that this is a really solid shoe. I don't exactly know how I would rank it compared to those shoes, but if you guys want me to compare these to one of the shoes that I've just named, I would be happy to do so. I do think that, yeah, that area of 145 to 150, I think that the performance of all of those shoes are actually increasing. The brands are giving us like a little bit better options nowadays, and putting a little bit more tech and a little bit more effort into it, which I really love to see. But I do think that it is making it a lot more competitive between the brands, like which one I guess is your favorite. Like I also really like the Saucony Endorphin Azuras. I think that those have a lot of pep and those provide a lot of value for $150. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below if you want me to compare these to any of those running shoes. And overall, I would say that this is kind of middle of the pack or maybe a little bit above average. Like I was pleasantly surprised with this shoe, but at the end of the day, like I do wish that they tried to shave the weight a little bit more and maybe increase the airflow and just maybe do something cooler with the upper. I do think that I do commend them for the midsole. I think that the midsole is a little bit more fun. It is very comfortable for walking and running. And then the outsole, I wish maybe it would perform a little bit better in wetter conditions or just in different weather conditions. So overall, Brooks Ghost Amp priced at $150, really, really solid. If you are a Brooks fan, you are going to love these. If you're not a Brooks fan and you're willing to try out different brands, I think that I would prefer maybe a couple of other daily trainers over these, but let me know in the comment section down below what you think. If you have the Brooks Ghost Amp or if you have the Brooks Ghost 18, you're looking at these, or if you have any questions, I will get back to you guys as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.